I was friends with Matt Taibbi. Very good friends. In fact, he and Alex Perrine did their podcast out of our studio. Matt never paid me, not you, Matt, but Matt Taibbi never paid me for the studio use. I kept saying, "Don't worry about it."
Pretty well for that.
I was like, "Don't worry about it. You got me. I trust you." Anyways,
he's so bitter too. He's like
no, but I was friends with Matt for almost 20 years. And I think what happened, and I've said this before publicly, I think he was.
Absolutely. Do we want to plow into a little bit of the Matt Taibbi, Sam Seder?
Matt Taibbi.
Filling in a little bit of
I'm so sorry.
Context for everyone. And you know what? We're gonna have to unpack so much in this like 4-minute clip. You guys buckle up because it's gonna be quite a ride down memory lane.
Yep, absolutely. This is going to be pretty interesting, guys. So Sam Seder obviously has been taking shots at some of the members of the MAGA left recently, Jimmy Dore, but he's really doubled down on Matt Taibbi in this recent clip that was published to the Majority Report channel, in which he takes some pretty interesting shots and reveals some pretty interesting aspects of Matt Taibbi's personal life, as well as his friendship with Matt, that I was unaware of.
Yeah, I didn't realize this either. I knew that Matt had been around the studio. I knew that he'd been on CMBS in the past before, Michael's passing. And I always really enjoyed his commentary on there. I also did know that there was a Me Too scandal around Matt Taibbi. What I didn't understand until Sam Seder laid it out in this clip was what it did to his brain, right? What it did to make him kind of change his pathology.
Yeah, let's take a look at this, guys. It's pretty interesting stuff. A lot of this history I was unaware of or only partially aware of. So definitely interesting to hear it from Sam Seder. And like I said, I was unaware of how close Sam Seder and Matt Taibbi were. Apparently they were close friends in like the 2000s and stuff. So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, let's get the
Pip. Michael had Matt Taibbi on a few times. Was that only for a couple of issues, or did Taibbi do a right-wing grift like Tulsi? I was friends with Matt Taibbi. Very good friends. In fact, he and Alex Perrine did their podcast out of our studio.
I produced it.
Matt produced it. Matt never paid me, not you, Matt, but Matt Taibbi never paid me for the studio use. I kept saying, "Don't worry about it."
Pretty well for that.
I was like, "Don't worry about it. You got me. I trust you." Anyways,
he's so bitter too. He's like, this asshole.
You should just send Matt Taibbi a fat bill. Be like, now that you've sold out, I think you can afford to pay me back.
Yeah, Matt is like, I got paid for that. He's like, I wasn't gonna show up and do that shit for free, but Sam paid me for those hours that I was here.
No, but I was friends with Matt for almost 20 years, and I think what happened, and I've said this before publicly, I think he was wrongly accused of Me Too stuff because of his book. I don't want to go deep into it, but there was no accuser. There was no woman who ever accused him of doing anything to them. It was all based upon what his co-author wrote in what was sort of a semi-parody of their time in Russia.
Hunter S. Thompson style.
Yes.
Gonzo.
And, there were some in my generation who got sort of like that Hunter S. Thompson disease. And that was sort of like the writing style du jour, and being, and people grow up from that. And I think he had, frankly. I do think that he was, I don't know if it was arrogance in addressing this as it was floating around. Because,
and by the way, in case anyone's still a little bit confused, I have done research on this. The book they're talking about is a book that Taibbi and one of his friends wrote when they were living in Russia. And it is presented like it's not presented as a piece of fiction, but it clearly is written in a very hyperbolic way, as he references, much like Hunter S. Thompson would write. Clearly, they were going for something like that. And I think the portion of the book that specifically went viral that kind of got Matt Taibbi canceled is where he jokingly discussed like sodomizing 18-year-old Russian hookers with his friends in their hotel rooms and stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh, we didn't even ask how old they were. We just them." Something like that. Pretty gross. But I mean, as Sam Seder said, it's not like anyone ever actually accused him of sexual impropriety. It seems like it was just a really edgy joke that was kind of written in a style to make him sound cool or something. I'm not sure.
That's exactly what I think it is. Look, dude, Matt Taibbi, if you take one look at that guy, you can tell he's really not the kind of guy that's going to do some like serious. Like you look at the kind of guy, that guy, and you're like, oh, you're not like, that's not the kind of guy you are, right? Like I work at a bar. I can size up the kind of dude that I'm like, oh, you're going to be a problem for me. You're going to be like hounding every chick that walks. It's not Matt Taibbi's vibe. I think he's like he's got way too big of a stick up his ass. Like I think literally he's wound way too tight. You know, the old quote, if you stuck a lump of coal up his ass, in 2 weeks, you'd have a diamond. That's how I get a vibe from Matt Taibbi. So I do believe that it's all bullshit because I don't think he's cool enough to have actually gone out and done any like
don't put Zach
debauchery.
Don't put Zach on a jury. He'll be like, oh, this guy's body language. He's good. He's innocent.
Hey, man, you ever watch that show with Tim Roth, Lie to Me? I'm like that guy. You know what I mean? I just tell. I'm like, you know what I mean? I could make $1 million in the World Poker Tour, but out of charity to all of you guys, I don't participate. What I'm really good at is analyzing from this chair here. And what I will tell you is that I think there was a time where people thought it was cool to be super edgy. And I think that Matt kind of caught that wave. And in the same way that like if you're like a rap star, right, and you're talking about like doing all kinds of crazy shit, like you probably didn't. There's the old Ice-T quote, like if you believe I'm a cop killer, then you believe David Bowie's an astronaut, right? I think that should be trotted out here. Now, is that a good look? Is that something that you should celebrate? Do you think that Matt Taibbi didn't even write that? It's probably his. Do I think they probably did hookers? Sure, they definitely probably hookers. But I'm just saying, like to be like they're not P. Diddy, you know what I mean? They're not Harvey Weinstein. I just like I don't know, and especially because there was no victim. Now here's the pushback though. While we're because again, like Gavin and I, we don't know, we weren't there. I'm not trying to make excuses for some asshole if he did a bunch of pervy shit in Russia, right? Anyway, long story short, I think it's very gross, but I also don't think that it's enough to cancel the guy forever.
The book was out of print, and so I think he felt like. And, I didn't really do anything wrong, so I don't know why I should address it. In fact, we had this conversation. I said, you should deal with this. And he was, I think, unfairly attacked and really hurt his book. He had written this a really impressive book about
Eric Garner.
The guy, I can't remember his name now, gosh.
Freddie Gray.
No, I Can't Breathe. The guy they got for selling the Lucy's, and they killed him. The New York Police Department.
Eric Garner.
Yeah, Garner. And then I think that broke his brain. I mean, it was a very difficult situation. I mean, the Garner book was really destroyed, and his reputation was destroyed. And I think that broke his brain. And I've seen known a couple of people in that type of situation. And there's
sorry to cut in one more time, but I do think it's fair to say that when that was all going down, it might have felt like, oh shit, my career is over, my reputation is ruined. I don't think most people even know about this these days. Like I vaguely was aware of this scandal, but it wasn't until I watched this clip that I was like, oh yeah, that did happen. That did happen. But I wouldn't say it in any way ruined Matt Taibbi's career or his reputation. Like I said, I'm sure for a year or so, he was dealing with a lot of people online saying things about him that he felt was unfair. But I don't know. I don't feel like his reputation was unrecoverable, even with the liberals and the left.
I think from a readership perspective, from an audience perspective, that's entirely true. What I wonder about, and obviously I can't say for sure, is that based off of my experience, guys, the media world is small. It's a lot smaller than you realize.
True.
Especially when you're a lefty. And when you cross paths with the same people over and over again, or even Matt Taibbi wasn't in just lefty media. He was in New York media, right? This was a guy that was talked about extensively in classrooms. This was a guy that you might have your class at Columbia Journalism School read a piece that he did, like Bush Like Me. And he was a real player in the game. And I think what broke his brain that Sam might be addressing here is the fact that he got rejected from the establishment elite media scene. He could no longer be the bad boy that played by his own rules, wrote for Rolling Stone magazine, and cosplayed as Hunter Thompson when he showed up with a bunch of Washington Post writers and a bunch of New York Times writers and Wall Street Journal writers. He was no longer allowed in those spaces. He was persona non grata because they were all like, I'm not catching any of the cancellation that you've had. And that, I think, is what originally was the catalyst, at least if I'm to pick up what Sam's putting down, that led to him going more and more and more niche over time, because he was no longer anchored to the thoughts and the approval in any way, shape, or form of anybody he viewed as adversarial and establishment, which just he continued to expand his definition of that.
Well, there's a hard way to return from that, and there's an easier way to return from that. And most people take the easier way because it's hard. And aggrievement is a big, big theme for having sort of reactionary positions. Glenn Greenwald, the inciting event for Glenn Greenwald to turn into whatever he's turned into was that Rachel Maddow would no longer have him on MSNBC. It's true. Now,
I have no idea if that's true about Glenn, by the way. I really don't.
I would love to know what his response is to that.
I would also love to know what his response is, because
I've seen from him is pro JD Vance.
Yeah.
Oh, the Kamala's unrelatable.
And I do know that he used to go on
All the
Rachel
time.
Maddow quite a bit.
She's on the cover of his book.
I didn't know that she stopped letting him on, though. Like, I didn't know that she was like, all right, you're done.
Yeah. Although, in hindsight, who really cares about Rachel Maddow?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't care. I'm just like,
Oh, I know. Yeah.
if what Sam is saying is true, I didn't know that she, cut him off in that way.
I've got a lot to say about that, some of which I think, not necessarily particularly, I've never been a big Rachel Maddow fan. But grow up. It's not about you. It's not. Not when you do this type of stuff. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our...
One of the telltale signs that Sam's real, and he understands what he's doing. He understands that he's advocating policies that aren't just about his life. It's about everyone's life. When you're talking about politics, it's not just about you. Go do a stand-up routine. Go do a one-man show. Write a play that's just for you. That can be all about you. But when you're addressing the state of affairs and how policy will be implemented, yeah, you should maybe come to the discussion with an understanding that there are other people in this world who matter just as much as you, who are not you.
Yep. I also think it's important for someone like Sam Seder to be delivering this message, because some of you guys might forget, but Sam Seder actually was once fired by MSNBC over a joke somewhat similar. He was never accused of sexual impropriety like Matt Taibbi, or that was never really suggested. I forget what the joke even was, to be honest. But yeah, he was okay. His tweet was attacking rape apologists. Some people took it as joking about rape. He got fired by MSNBC. My point is, he easily also could have played the whole like, I'm aggrieved card. Now it's time to become a Republican because the left just can't stand free speech and the left just can't take a joke. So now, hello, Greg Gutfield. You know what I'm saying? That's what Matt Taibbi did. And Sam's right. That is the easier path, especially right after something like this, a big scandal, because all the eyes are on you. And then you can take that attention and turn it around and be like, now I'm going to use that attention to facilitate my pivot, right? That's what a lot of people do. That's kind of what Matt Taibbi did. Although, to be fair to Matt Taibbi, he doesn't bring up this scandal a lot. It's not like he cites this as one of the reasons why he's left the left. I think he just wants to move on from it and never talk about it again. But yeah, I think Sam's probably right on the money here. I think he's probably 100% on the money. So many people, their politics and their opinions, it's very much just reactionary. It's reactionary in regard to whatever affects them personally. And I think everyone is guilty of this on some level. Like, I don't think any of us, we're all human beings. I don't think any of us can totally divorce our personal experiences from what we believe. So it's not like I don't understand it on a psychological level, but I think Sam's right. You got to grow up. You got to be objective. You got to, take a step back and realize that it's not just the left who cancels people. The right wing does it all the frickin' time. In fact, I would say they're even more trigger happy sometimes. They're even more willing and ready to cancel their own over transgressions of whatever variety.
100%. But anyway, very interesting revelation from Sam Seder, spilling the tea.
Yep.
A little bit of hot goss. And if you know anything about the Vanguard, look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir.